Welcome, everybody, to the Abundant Live podcast. I'm here with my good friend and faithful servant in the faith, Saso Mendez, and today we have an extra special guest with us. We have George Binoka. Welcome, hey, George. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely.
And, thanks for coming on.
It's an honor to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
we have a guest, too, in the studio. But
we do. You can't see her, but her name's Rebecca. This is George's
the
cousin.
person behind the lens.
And, she's behind the camera over here. Yep. So
right.
Much better looking than the three non-video radio faces right here.
Radio faces.
Sorry about this.
Yeah, sorry
I
about that.
apologize. You can pixelate this out if you like.
So real quick shout out to my cousin Nick and Beatrice. Congratulations on the marriage, and cool. we wish you guys the best. And I gotta say, honestly, that hurtados, bro.
It was good. That brisket,
that barbecue was bomb. So Nick, you guys.
Sorry, George.
You picked.
Getting really hungry.
Well, the thing about it is, you go to like I'm not gonna say Little Miss. And I just said it, but you go there,
she's not sponsoring us,
and you get like the half a pound. But here it was like you could eat as much as you wanted. And I wore my stretchy pants because I was ready for that meal. So,
well, that was what's cool about the tux that I rented. So they weren't stretchy per se, but they had these little things that you could adjust on the side. So you
adjustable waistband.
Yeah.
As you're eating.
Yeah, so you could just adjust it and make them bigger
automatically. That's why the comfort waist is like one of the greatest inventions of mankind, besides the will.
Gotta love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why men don't have to wear yoga pants. So you just, we get stretchy pants.
Yeah, and then you were about to cover the elastic on the sides. So nobody knows. None's for the better, But
that hurtados was delicious. So they had brisket, and they had ribs, and they had it was like the sausage. I don't know, was that Italian sausage? What was that?
No, it was. It wasn't Italian sausage. It was like a summer sausage to me. Like, I don't know.
Like
but
links?
It was, but it was cut in half. And in my mind, it went the brisket, it went the ribs, then went the sausage, it went the beans, and then it went the potato salad, which was fantastic.
That potato salad.
Fantastic.
I mean, usually you go to a barbecue place and it's usually an afterthought.
Right.
The sides.
Yeah.
But here.
Oh, mac and cheese too. Forgot about that.
Mac and cheese. Yeah. The mac and cheese and the potato salad, bomb. I'm just saying. It was good. But the other thing I forgot to mention was the night before at the rehearsal dinner.
Oh, yeah. That was good as well.
Dude, we had this. So it was Beatrice's brother, Abel. He made some amazing fajitas, beef fajitas, chicken fajitas.
He enabled us to be gluttons at that.
He abled us.
Yeah, he abled us.
That's his name, Abel. But
biblical name there.
But it was delicious. They had salsa. That salsa. So Beatrice's mom made that salsa. It was delicious.
I couldn't kiss Rebecca for like a day because my lips were on fire. I couldn't feel them.
Like, woo! But it was delicious. It was awesome.
Well, they had chicken, right? They had grilled chicken. That was the first course.
Yeah.
And they had that spaghetti that Rebecca liked a lot.
But it wasn't spaghetti.
It was
like
cold spaghetti with cream cheese or something.
Yeah, it was like a fettuccine sauce.
Feta good is what I thought. It was pretty amazing.
It was good. So we definitely enjoyed that. The wedding was a beautiful wedding. They had some mariachis, which was really cool. It was a really cool effect. And
man, this was like a cultural experience.
It really was.
Yeah, it was.
It was, and it was a beautiful venue. Like it was out in the country. So it was in Dallas, but it was
Denton.
Denton, yeah. So north of Dallas in Denton, and it was out in the country. The venue was really cool. It looked like a barn. So the wedding was outdoors, which was really beautiful as well. It was windy. It was super windy.
I didn't realize how windy Dallas was.
Well, we almost blew away when we were in Fort Worth.
I'm 205 pounds too, and I was like, "Woo!"
Yeah, we were like leaning forward, we were walking up between these buildings in Fort Worth, and man, everything was just blown. It was crazy.
Well, isn't it tornado country in Texas?
It is. It's pretty flat there. I mean, there's no mountains to block the wind.
Yeah. No,
it was blowing like
got
crazy.
Wizard of Oz flashbacks. So like, ooh, I don't know.
It was pretty nuts,
but it was a very nice venue. I agree.
It was beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah, it was beautiful. The wedding
beautiful
was beautiful
ceremony.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, very nice.
So we enjoyed ourselves.
Everybody kept asking me, like, why are you there? Like, why, were you invited? I go, kind of. So.
Well, and this is the whole reason, right? The podcast.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Nick listens to the podcast.
He gave you a shout out on Facebook. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So,
showing some love.
For real. Showing Abundant Life some love.
But he showed us love with the hurtados as well. I mean,
that was definitely...
nothing says I love you like a
man.
piece of fatty brisket. You know what I mean?
Is that the way to your heart?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Pretty much. For a man. I mean, for the most part.
It's true.
So.
Yeah.
but it was delicious. So
Because it goes by my heart and then to my stomach
yeah.
when I eat it.
So the whole Dallas experience was really cool. I had a blast.
That was your first time, right? In Dallas?
First time in Dallas,
Okay.
so we got to see a lot. We got to see downtown Dallas, downtown Fort Worth. We went to a little neighborhood called Deep Ellum. There was a lot of stuff there, a lot of street vendors, a lot of stores, shops, restaurants. We ate some pretty amazing Italian there. We had ramen, fancy ramen. I don't know, have you ever had fancy ramen, George?
No.
Fancy
No, what's
ramen.
that? What's
So,
that
you know,
about?
you have you ever had ramen, the little package? So they have fancy ramen now where you can go and it's noodles, but they put in what was the one that they put in mine? It was pork belly. They put pork belly.
Pork belly in mine, too.
And they had this like
Went in
really,
my belly.
really flavorful soup. Pretty amazing. I gotta admit, I didn't have my hopes up too high, honestly. My expectations were pretty low, but
Really? They were low?
well, I just didn't know what to expect,
Oh, yeah, okay.
honestly. So
Is it like ramen, or like do they actually use like the ramen noodles from like your childhood? Like
no, it's they are ramen noodles, but not the pack. I mean, they're not
Not
breaking
the
open like a
cheap.
Manchurian or whatever it's called.
I'm just imagining these guys opening these cups of noodles.
Like you stand up, you're like, hey, wait a minute. You're just opening ramen noodles back there. I'm not paying $17 for this.
It's got to be great margins on that restaurant.
I know. Yeah.
For real.
At $17 a bowl was, you know what I mean?
And it was good though. I mean, it was cool because you could order extra noodles. So if you had leftover soup, you could
Egg.
toss more. But it came with pork belly. And that pork belly was tender. It was delicious.
Wow.
It was pretty bomb.
But you know what? We didn't have tacos over there. We did at the wedding. I made my own because I had the little corn tortillas and I got the.
Yeah, at the rehearsal.
Yeah.
But we didn't have Mexican, did we? Did we have Mexican?
No, your cousin told us to go to like.
JT Garcia.
Yeah.
We didn't make it.
I'm not big into Tex-Mex. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like Tex-Mex, but
Do you really?
well, we went to the stockyards, and that's where it was. The stockyard was pretty cool over in
Yeah.
Fort Worth.
Have you been there?
No.
Okay.
We actually watched a cattle drive.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently the last cattle drive in the United States of America.
Yeah, that's what they said. I don't know how true that is.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was fake news.
I didn't
Like
fact,
forever?
I didn't fact check that, but you know,
Oh, it's like seasonal, like last.
no, they do it every single
every
day,
single day.
even on Sunday. Yeah, so it's really cool. Right through the stockyard, they just and it's like how many do you think? How many steer did they?
30 maybe.
Yeah, so I mean it's not huge.
Big horns.
Big. I mean huge. There's some people that were parked, just on the side of the road, and I'm thinking, dude, that one of those horns is just gonna, give it some Arizona pinstriping there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we've seen those videos on YouTube of those guys going crazy with their horns. I mean, that could wreck a car, man. Those guys are powerful.
Oh yeah, definitely. So,
That was cool. We saw that on Friday.
yeah, that was fun.
I got some
Stockyard.
boots. Yeah.
You got some really nice boots.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah. Are you wearing them tonight?
No, don't look at my feet. They're pretty bad.
I saw you in the first time with boots on at FTL like a couple weeks ago, and I was
Oh,
just
really?
like,
These are different kind of boots.
I would
but
not have ever imagined you're a boot guy. That's really cool.
I am not, but I became one.
How?
Those are your third pair of Luke Casey, right? Or
Second pair.
Second
Yeah,
pair. Right?
Other pair.
That's
Different
right.
brand.
That's right.
Fennec Leos. Well, because my company is based out of San Antonio, Texas, and
Okay.
so I went there and I was like, everybody's wearing boots. It's like normal. It's like tennis shoes here, So I'm like, man, I gotta give me a pair of boots, and then I became a boot guy. And then I realized it made me a little taller as well. When you're
That's
five,
what it
like Zacchaeus, if he could get, you know what I mean, he'd be all into that. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, I need boots. So
That's good.
there you go.
That's awesome.
That's the true story. It made
Brutal
me
honesty.
2 inches taller. So
Yeah.
I went from 5'5" to 5'7".
yeah.
It's a good jump.
In the morning, you know what I mean? Because you kind of shrink throughout the day as the
You do. Gravity just pulls you down, man.
my stomach's like pulling me down a little bit. You know what I mean?
That too.
after Hurtado's, woo!
Wow. That was
But it's good.
pretty amazing.
So if you you have to check out Dallas. Go to Hurtado's. I think it's in.
Was it Dallas proper?
No, it's where we went to Six Flags.
Oh, it was Irving or Arlington?
Arlington, thank you.
Arlington. Yeah.
Wow.
So we did the Six Flags thing. That was kind of cool. That was fun. That was the only day that was not windy. The only day.
Yeah, and they had some rides that they said they weren't working because it was windy. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that
it
was
windy.
that was bogus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fake news.
it was.
Was it hot?
It was warm, and it was
That day it was a little bit warm.
and it was a little bit humid. A little bit, not bad, but it was a little bit humid.
On Monday it was a little bit when we left. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
You
It was
get-
getting worse. It was progressively getting hotter and more humid.
You get a nice lather on your back. You know, like, just to remind you it's humid. You know, like, ooh,
So
you need some back deodorant. Like, put it back there. You know what I mean? Speaking of which, I did not put on any today. So if you smell In-N-Out in here, it's not a burger. It's me. It's
not the onions.
My bad. I apologize. So my fault, guys.
It's all good, bro. It's all good. Well, we know you're training for the Pat Tillman, so that's
I got a week to
good.
go.
Got a week to go.
Yeah.
All right.
I got a diet this week, so
yeah, got to hit it hard.
Got to lose 5 pounds by next
You've
Saturday.
been training, and I got to be honest with you. You've showed me your times, and it's not bad.
I should eat better though, but I don't, because everybody just looks at you like you're too fat to run. But I still like to run. You know what I mean?
I don't like to run. I'll be honest with you. I hate running.
I scare people when I run, but there's a 200-pound guy behind me. Some brown guy.
So hide your wallet.
Yeah,
hide your wallet, honey.
Like one time I saw a lady, right? Because the gym is on my route, and she left a cup on her top of her car. So I ran like I was waving at her, and she was trying to almost ran me over, trying to get out of the parking lot away from me. I'm like, "Your cup." She's like, "Oh, thank you." I'm like, somebody from the church too that lives by me was scared too. Like, hey, it's Saso. I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going? That's kind of funny.
Yeah,
I'll give you a name later if you ask me. DM me if you want you want the name of these people. But she had 2 little kids, so
being protective.
Yeah, she smelled onion and saw 200-pound guy. Like, the burden of the bulls. So anyway,
that's awesome. Well, let's get into it. And before we get into it, just really quick, want to plug abundantlife.fm. So if you would visit us on our website, abundantlife.fm, you can subscribe to the podcast. You can see all of our show notes. We've got other resources. We're going to have to add hurtados to the taco review.
What do you get?
That's a 5 taco review.
Is it a 5? You give it a 5?
Bro, that's 5 taco review.
You think it's better than Little Miss?
I got to go to Little Miss here in the next week or so. I'll give you a.
Okay.
It's been a minute since I've been there, so I got to compare.
That's good. That's fair.
It's a tough one. That's a tough one. AbundantLife.fm. Visit us. We are on Instagram. We are on Twitter and Facebook. Hello, YouTube out there. Also, check out our YouTube channel.
Apologize.
And please please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Saso, you are going to kick us off today with a key verse. We've got a really sweet, awesome treat for you guys today, but we're going to start off with a key verse today, and then I'll get into more of what we're going to talk about in today's episode.
Awesome. So our reference for today is Ephesians chapter 4, verses 22 to 24, that you put off concerning the former conversation, the old man, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that you put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness.
So in this episode, we're going to be talking about putting off the old man, and we invited George in today. And so I think I met George probably when you were in middle school, I want to say. Was that fair to say? When did you start ACA?
Sounds about right.
When did you start ACA?
6th grade, halfway
Sixth grade. So right around middle school. And George was a handful. And
Both
so
hands,
we got to know George. But God has done some amazing things in George's life. So we invited George in today. We wanted him to share not only just his testimony, but God's brought him a long way from birth to where he is today. And so we wanted to just talk about that and share George's story with you. So with that said, George, welcome to the show again, and thank you for indulging us today. And so what I want to do is just, first of all, if you just give us a little bit of who you are, about who you are right now, and then let's dial back to birth in the womb, George in the womb,
the first surprise party. He's here.
Yeah. So, guys, I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
It always feels a little weird to talk about your story, but right now I'm actually in between. I used to kind of be a church planter in Africa, and that kind of came to a sudden halt, and I'm here at my sending church, Northwest Valley Baptist Church, where I grew up, and I'm really thankful to be here with my church family. We're kind of dealing with some health issues with my wife, and while we're doing that, we're kind of just seeking God's will for what's next, and had some offers come up and some opportunities, and we're going to see what God does, and so we're hoping this summer we'll know what the next thing is that God is taking us to, and we'll go from there. So really excited about kind of sharing how we got to that point, So I guess I'm unemployed.
I'm honest. Honestly, I'm excited what God's been doing in your life, even just recently. I mean, He's using you right now. And I know you're between, jobs, so to speak.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, I mean,
we haven't stayed
God's
idle.
using you. I mean, God's using you.
Yeah. Yeah, we love volunteering at our church. I mean, I don't think a Christian should stay idle ever, no matter the circumstances. So we love being here. There's a lot of international people in the Valley. It's kind of crazy. There's pockets of every single type of community. So,
well, I think we're getting an influx from California, which there's a melting pot over there. We're looking at Rebecca because she's thinking about moving over here, but
be part of the
can't blame them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's kind of rough.
Yeah, gas prices are a little high over there.
Right.
Blackouts and sorry, George. I digress.
So should I just jump into it?
Yeah. So tell us, George. You have a tremendous, amazing story of your birth story when you were born, and so take us back.
Yeah, you guys will forgive me a little bit. I like to operate off notes just a little bit.
Yeah,
so
no,
I'm gonna look down every once in a while, but I do want to encourage everybody that's listening to this. A salvation story is just a remarkable. It's just a recalling of God's remarkable grace. That's all it is. And every Christian has one. Each one is important. No one is more important than the other. No one's more significant. Their story's not more significant than the other. And the purpose is really to bring God glory.
Amen.
And I do my best to make sure, I have a rough past, and sometimes you hear some salvation stories with a rough past and kind of embellish sin and I try not to embellish the sin. I mean, it's a serious thing. And it's really not about me. I think one of the things that I see, and I think everybody sees in the Christian life, is the more you live the Christian life and the more you can look back at what's happened, the more you can just see God's fingerprints all over the place. And so it's just God's grace. Yeah. And I'm not where I should be, and I'm not where I used to be, but I am where I am by the grace of God.
Amen.
And so that's what this is. And so I've kind of going to start all the way back in Iraq. That's where my family's from the north of Iraq. And some of you recall 1990, I think it was, actually. Saddam Hussein invaded a country in the Middle East called Kuwait. And basically, we had been involved in this Iran-Iraq war. And I wasn't born at the time yet, but my uncles were involved in that war. My dad was involved in that war. There was a giant draft. And Iraq had this 1 million-man standing army, but when they got back from the war, he couldn't pay them. So he tried to kind of solicit the payment from Kuwait. And to kind of get them to give it and give more, he just decided, I'm just going to invade the country. And so, a week later or whatever, Kuwait was his. Yeah. But there was a big pushback to that, which is what everybody recalls as Desert Storm.
Right.
And so that's when my family had to leave Iraq because they didn't want to face American forces. A lot of families, there was a giant influx into Europe. And basically the way you get out of Iraq is most people go through Turkey. They're smuggled through Turkey, and they get to the beaches of Turkey, all the way in western Turkey, and then you get put onto this overfilled ferry, basically. It's just this boat that's begging to be sunk, and that's what happened with my family. And there are a lot of thieves along the roads in Turkey, and so it's kind of a treacherous journey. But mom and dad made it to the beaches. They got on this ferry, and the ferry took off from the beach and about halfway to Greece, and you're trying to make it to Europe. Halfway to Greece, the ferry sunk.
That's crazy.
Because, these these smugglers are not following the rules. There's no OSHA to govern this.
Right.
It's just going to load it with people, make as much money as possible. And so this thing decided to sink. They were in the water 3 days before they were rescued.
Wow.
And taken into Europe. And so they were rescued by a European vessel, and they were taken to the port there in Athens, and that's where they stayed for a little bit. And then, mom got pregnant with me while they were in Athens, Greece. And then they got green cards because they were considered political refugees. And so they went to the airport May 18th, 1994. That's when they took off and finally got on the flight to the promised land of the United States. And they were headed towards Michigan, Detroit, Michigan. So the flight took off, and from what I can tell, it's probably like 4 or 5 hours as I see the flight path from Athens. And right about when they entered French airspace, my mom, this is me recalling what my mom told me about her story, is her water broke in the airplane.
Wow.
So what had happened is, you're not supposed to fly after 6 months. And she lied to them because she's like, no, I'm going to America, So she said, I'm just, I'm 6 months, but she was 9 months. And so her water broke, and they said, what do you want us to do? And she said, I want you to land, which didn't make her a popular person, on the airplane, but they did an emergency landing in Nice, France, and that's where I was born. So, wow. They stepped off that plane with a baby, and they had nothing, and the French government provided everything for a couple months, and then they got back on another plane, and made it to the States.
So were you born on the plane or did you make it to the hospital?
I think I made it to the hospital.
Okay.
So your mom was pregnant when that ferry went down.
Yeah, that's what she told me, is she was pregnant in the water when the ferry went down. And
what were they hanging on to? I mean, they're in the water 3 days. Like what?
I think something that floated, whatever floated.
That's crazy.
Well, maybe you made her buoyant. You know what I mean? Because she's pregnant and it's like bobbing in the water.
I think it's why I'm such a great swimmer. You know?
You're inside, you know, dude.
Right.
Dog pedal.
Yeah, I mean, when she told me the story growing up of their journey over, I'm just like, how did you survive that? You know,
Right.
how did you survive that? And I mean, just a lot of struggle. I mean, just this just great struggle to get over here, and they got over here and made it.
Well, George, that's amazing. That's crazy. I mean, it's a crazy story, but it's amazing how God preserved, right? I mean, it's just His preservation, His mercy, His grace. I mean, He was already working.
Like a modern day Moses, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Right in the basket.
Yeah, sure.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to talk to George a little bit more about what happened here in the States once he got to the States.
Are you looking to apply God's truth in a practical way to your everyday life? Stay in the Fight is a weekday devotional written by Saso Mendez. This short 3-minute read looks at a verse of Scripture and applies it to life in a very real and transparent way. Saso's blog-style writing is humorous, relatable, and a great way to align your thoughts with God's Word. Visit stayinthefight.online and subscribe to get notified by email when it releases each weekday. Stay in the Fight is a great way to keep God in your focus, and it's easy to share with others. That's stayinthefight.online.
And we're back. So, George, you go ahead and continue on with the story, and let us tell us what happened when you arrived in Detroit, right?
That's right. Arrived in Detroit. So my uncles had kind of gone ahead of my mom. Her brothers had gone ahead of her, and my grandparents were already here. So when my mom and my dad got off the plane, they greeted them. And at the time, because they're refugees, basically, they didn't have anything. So that all the families decided we're going to all live in one house. All the men are going to work. We're going to try to save as much money as possible and get off the ground here. And eventually, as personal economics got better for each member, each family within the family, started moving out into their own apartments and that kind of thing. And we all lived in the same apartment complex pretty much. My dad, and there are different men that I'm kind of highlighting throughout my story. So I guess the first man I would highlight is Saddam Hussein. Obviously God used him to bring me here to the United States, because I might still be in Iraq if he was a good leader. Right. There would not be a reason for them to leave. But the second man that God's really used in my journey is my biological father. So you get to America and the first thing you chase is that cheddar cheese, man, that money, right? It just is very much so about making it, the American dream, that kind of thing, rising up economically. And so my dad somehow managed to buy a convenience store.
Wow.
And that was his business.
Was it just like a little gas station, or what was? It
was just a liquor store.
Okay.
Yeah. It was, got the typical grocery, liquor and beer all on the outskirts and that kind of thing. Just, like a QT or something like that.
Okay.
And so, you walk into a convenience store like that. And I remember got little memories of a kid, him working there. And as soon as he got his hands on any kind of money, he'd go across the border to Windsor. If you lived in Detroit, Windsor's, 20-minute drive away. And there's casinos there.
Yeah.
And that's what he would spend his money on. And so, my memories of dad growing up are dad coming home broke and drunk and, taking it out on mom kind of thing. And so mom was horrifically verbally and physically abused. And thank the Lord he didn't touch my sister or me, like that. But mom was a great recipient of abuse. And I remember watching that as a kid. And, my dad, he was the kind of person who'd sit me on his lap and teach me to spit at my mom, teach me to criticize her food. He's just a very malevolent person. A lot of hatred in his heart and just guile towards my mom. So
was there a Muslim influence in with your dad coming from an Arabic country?
There was not.
Okay.
He would consider himself an atheist.
Wow.
When he got to America, he didn't attend a church of any kind. And so, there's influence over there for how you look at women generally across the Middle East. Women are kind of viewed more as property than anything else. And so you you give a dowry. It's like you buy her, so to speak, and the family sells her to you. And a dowry isn't always like that. Those connotations aren't always with it, but it's a part of the mentality, especially in the Middle East. They view women like that, and so that's kind of
par for the course. Or
yeah.
So your mom expected that in a sense, or
she expected to be treated as less than him, but I don't think any woman expects to be hit, or just verbally abused like that. So it's just one of those things that was the case. And what that led to is one day coming home and mom discovered him in the house with another woman. And so we'd gotten home early from school that day. It was a half day, and I guess he thought it was going to be more than a half day or whatever. And mom discovered him, and that was kind of the end of it for her. You can do a lot of things to him, but don't cheat on her.
Sure. Right.
So they'll take a lot. And so I watched mom go through this horrific divorce process. I watched him leave, and I remember at one point in divorce court, he denied we were his children. Oof. That was a kind of a tactic he tried to use. So they literally did a blood test on me and my sister, and it was like, near 100%, near 100%. They're not ever 100%, but
you are the father.
Oh yeah. The judge let him have it, but and so that was pretty hurtful. And then as time went on, we saw him less and less and less frequently, and that contributed to a lot of bitterness as a kid. And it's a good thing to say, I guess, right now. If you're thinking about getting a divorce, don't do it. Your kids will not be unscathed by it, and it will detrimentally affect them the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And grace is great. God's grace is great, and it cannot be depleted, but that should not be an excuse for us to be irresponsible and ungodly towards our families.
Well, I think there's a design for marriage. I mean, and God, doesn't look well on divorce. I mean, it's not part of it's not part of the design of marriage. So
it's just not meant to be.
No.
I mean, even Jesus said, they said, well, Moses gave us a certificate of divorce. He said, yeah, he gave that to you guys because
you're knuckleheads. Yeah, you're knuckleheads.
You're horrible people. So I need to change you.
Right.
So that's kind of what led up to that. And I got to say, on this side of it, I look back and I think, what a great thing that my biological dad didn't get to influence me any more than that.
Wow. Yeah.
That's
still difficult. I mean, dads have a specific role in the
huge role,
especially in a son's life.
Yes,
and a daughter as well, but specifically in a son. I mean, there's a whole generation of now men, but they grew up without fathers. Yeah. And man, I mean, you look
Show Me the Father. Yeah, great movie on that.
Well, you look at like the transgender movement, and you look at all this. There's just a lot of stuff that's going on. I mean, and that's a lot of because of missing dads.
Yes. Yeah, you see that all the time. And growing up in Detroit, I was not. My situation was not uncommon. It was the more common situation going to public school in Detroit. I mean, most of the kids that were my friends were kids without dads, so it's very sad. And I have a burden for those type of kids. But anyway, God did use it. He used it, I think, in a way to protect me from some of that influence. And so dad and mom divorced, and I think it was like almost simultaneously, mom got sick. She was diagnosed with lupus, and her lupus was very intense, very aggressive. She was kind of helped at Ann Arbor University Research Hospital up there, pretty good research hospital. But I remember as a kid, mom started getting this litany of prescriptions and the Monday through Sunday organizer thing.
A little plastic clear things.
Yeah, we had 4 of those for the 4 frequent times of day that mom couldn't read English very well and didn't speak English. So any hospital visit, any hospital stay, doctor visit, prescriptions, that was all on us as kids to make sure all that stuff happened.
How old were you at that time?
When mom first started getting sick, I think I was 7 years old.
Wow.
Yep, I was 7. She still was pretty healthy. By the time I was 12, she had really declined. And she could not hold a pencil in her hand. So, I had to write checks. I had to forge checks. Might edit that out later.
We'll blur it out for the YouTube pixelation.
I tried to get her sometimes, like, Mom, make your cross or something, just like for a T for your first name. And, sometimes she could barely do that. And, my sister Savine did a lot of grocery shopping, did a lot of intimate care of my mom. And I did, like, the paying the rent, writing the rent check, and going to her to Department of Economic Security to make sure she got those benefits. And Mom became more and more dependent. As a result, became more and more dependent on her extended family. So Rebecca's dad, who's here with us in the studio, she became very dependent on him, and my other uncle Philip. And so she started following them wherever they went because she had no choice. She needed somebody to make sure that she was okay. And so they moved out west. My uncles had kind of had the American dream happen to them. They started a business in Detroit, and it grew and grew and grew, and they cashed it out, and they took all that money, moved out west, and started another business. And so God really kind of blessed their efforts in business here and there. But when we moved to Phoenix, they actually realized Phoenix is not the right place for our business. We need to move to El Cajon, California, where there's more Chaldeans, people like us, for the type of business we want to start. And that was when my mom said, I'm not moving anymore. I can't do it physically, that kind of thing. We moved into a house, 4454 West Orabi Drive, like right there.
Yeah, it's not far.
Half a mile.
Yeah, we're close because Ben doesn't live too far from that location.
Yeah.
I mean, you could walk there in 20 minutes or whatever.
Wow.
And so that's where we moved into when we first moved into Phoenix. And one day my uncle took a turn down Yorkshire. It was actually not the road he was supposed to turn on, but he took a turn down there. And I'd been enrolled in the public school, Shadow Mountain Public School here, and I wasn't doing well. I was getting into fights, getting in trouble, being a troublesome kid. And they saw that, and they were getting ready to move to California. So they're like, we need to find a different school situation for this boy and girl. And so they saw this sign, Arrowhead Christian Academy. And, they pulled into the parking lot. My uncle walked out of his car, met Kevin Waycaster, and said, will you guys accept 2 kids? Are you a strict school? And asked him some questions like that, and it all checked out. And he said, all right, we're bringing 2 kids tomorrow.
Wow.
And, I think my uncle told me this later. He's like, he asked a strange question. I said, what did he ask you, Uncle? He said, don't you want to show the school to the kids? He said, no, it doesn't matter.
They're going.
They have no say.
That Middle Eastern hierarchy right there, man. Like, these days, like, do you like the school, kids? And that's just not what it was like in my family growing up. Yeah, you don't care. You don't matter. So
do what I say.
Yeah. So we started there the next day, and I had not tucked in a shirt one day in my life. I remember I walked in, I got out of the line, the car line, and I walked up, and Kevin Waycaster greeted me and said, "Hey, you're George." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Tuck in your shirt."
Wow.
And I said,
nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I went to the bathroom and tucked in my shirt, and I was angry. When I got to Arrowhead Christian Academy, and I was a bitter kid, and quite frankly, I hated God. Because it felt like God hated me, and it's funny because if you would have asked me, I said, there can't be a God. But if you asked me how I felt about God, I could tell you, well, I hate him. And this is what's so funny about atheists. It's like, how could you feel anything towards somebody who doesn't exist?
Right.
So it's like, definitely when you talk to atheists or people that are angry like that against religion or whatever, it's like they always have feelings towards a creator. It's like, you're kind of contradicting yourself.
Do you think that that anger and that hate was stemmed from your dad leaving, and not just not being around and just leaving you to handle, like you had to become an adult like at 12 years old?
Yeah, and it was the combination of all those life circumstances. So, at home I had to be an adult, and so I had to be very serious. There was no room for goofing around, and I had to do what I had to do. And at school, it was my chance to take it out on my teachers and be a kid, and that kind of thing. That's what I did, and I had a lot of pride. So I liked a good challenge. So I was picking fights and getting into trouble. And I remember my 7th grade year, they went from demerits to quarter slips. Okay. I remember them introducing quarter slips.
And I think they're back to demerits now, right?
Are they? I thought they were quarters still.
Maybe they are quarters. I don't know.
Quarters that don't have any value of money.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
They cost you money. 'cause,
4 quarters doesn't make $1 there.
Yeah, no. Makes a detention. 4 quarters equal detention.
Right.
Oh man, it was bad. I mean, I'd get Justin Howe was, I think, a new teacher my 7th grade year, and that poor guy. And I love Justin. I mean, he's a tremendous brother, but I'd give him a run for his money. I mean, I really gave him a run for his money, and he'd say things like, stop talking, or I'll give you quarters. I say, give me 3, teach.
Hit me, like blackjack. Hit me. Go ahead.
And that's horrible. That is absolutely horrible, because it's like, how do you control a kid that doesn't care what
right.
you do to him? Because the worst you can do to him in a school setting, discipline wise, is nothing. It pales in comparison to what's kind of already been done to him. And so I was going through all that, and I remember they would have an hour after school, and I went from being able to do my homework in an hour to copying out of an encyclopedia to not being in that room anymore because I was making that room too much fun. So, give him a broom, let him sweep the parking lot, and it's always funny. I'd get out of school, he'd be standing right there with my broom. I'd go to the parking lot, start sweeping, and you'd watch moms point at me with their kids standing next to them, like,
you're the example.
See, that's what happens. You better listen to me and obey.
Or you're going to be sweeping.
Yeah, you're going to be like that kid. And so,
Did you wave at all?
No. I just swept in shame. I used to
awesome.
new finish the wax stuff. I used to new finish the poles to the old playground that was there before we built the new church building. And so those blue poles, like Pastor Jason would show me how to, and they decided one time to give me like spray foam for the mirrors in the bathroom. But I decided, this is a good chance for some graffiti. So, Pastor Jason walks in, and I've been like wasted and everything on the whole bathroom's covered in foam. And
George was here, or what did you graffiti?
everything, man. All the panels in there. And so, I mean, I remember one time, I think somehow we got involved in an 8-boy fight or something.
Oh, that's like a Royal Rumble.
Wow.
Oh, it was bad.
Tag team.
Oh, yeah. And that's when it was like the final straw for Pastor Waycaster was like, here's a toothbrush. There's my bathroom next to my office in the E building. And so.
And I just had chili dogs.
Yeah.
Get at it. Ultimate punishment.
It was bad. And, I was this uncontrollable kid. And that went on for a while. But I can tell you something really beautiful about the church. Because in the church, in God's local church, for the childless, there are children, and for the motherless, there are mothers, and for the fatherless, there are fathers, and for the poor, there is money, and for the rich, there's opportunity to give, and for widows, there are men who will take care of them, and those that are lonely can have friends, and the church has a way of just healing these broken relationships. And that's why I feel like all these social programs, and I experienced some of those social programs, and you get sent to this facility, or this counselor is going to talk to you at your public school and all that, and it just doesn't work as beautifully, or it's not even close to the effectiveness of the local church. So what happened is a bunch of men at Northwest Valley just stepped into my life, chief of which was Terry and Doreen Bartels. That family stepped into my life, and Kevin Waycaster. So Kevin Waycaster said, hey, if you're going to attend this school, you should attend the church. And my mom said, okay, we don't have a car because I can't drive. I can't grip a steering wheel anymore. And so they sent a bus. And that morning when the church bus came, I still remember Terry Bartles sitting in the driver's seat, opening the door saying, hey, how are you guys? And we jumped on in and meeting Doreen, and my mom sat next to Doreen. And from then on, we never rode the bus to church because they picked us up in their family vehicle. That was a big deal. Not to be in public transportation, but to be in a private car and be brought to school. That was a big, big deal because, you feel poor all the time. And so Mom lived off Social Security income and food stamps and cash benefits and access healthcare. And we lived in Section 8 housing. So it's like, any Christmas presents we had at Christmas were government provided if they provided them that year. And, it just, you lived like in a certain way. And so they kind of made us feel rich because they would take us to church in their van, and then they'd say, help us with the bus route. So they turned us into helpers. And then they would say, after church, they say, come to our house for lunch, or they took us to a restaurant. It's like one of the only times I was ever the first times I was inside of a sit-down restaurant was with them. I still remember Applebee's, and they said, order whatever you want. I said, steak.
You're a smart man, George.
You have the ribeye.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember, Terry saying something funny, and, and they just have meant so much to us over the years. I mean, I'm kind of like jumping a little bit forward, so this is a little proleptic, but, eventually when my mom passed away, they became mom and dad. And so, my daughter calls them grandma and grandpa. And so it's a very, very beautiful thing, the way they took us in. But, there were many times I ran away from home during those years. And I usually find I'd like to go up 3-story buildings. And I'd usually see Terry Bartles' Ford Taurus. Still remember it, silver, 2-door, driving back and through
looking
the
for you,
neighborhoods, looking
Common
for
streets.
me. And that was my sign to come down, and he'd take me to Lenny's Burger and give me a burger and shake and talk about it, and then he'd take me home. And so that's what it was.
That's
like.
kind of a good deal. Like,
Oh yeah,
I'm hungry, so I'm gonna go hide.
Let's run away.
Well,
Lenny's Burger.
yeah. I guess maybe he should have taken me to Salad and Go or something.
Taco Bell or something bad.
Never run away again.
I'm sorry. I'm done.
There was definitely an investment there, and sometimes you see kids acting out like that, and it's just trying to get attention,
right.
And I think that's what a lot of that was. Well, when I was in 10th grade, my principal, Kevin Waycaster, who also was tremendous to me in that way, often mom was in the hospital frequently, very, very frequently. Pastor Jason has gotten a lot of frequent flyer miles at John C. Lincoln, Deer Valley, visiting my mom. And, that's all happening. So it's like, do you miss school every time your mom's in the hospital for a week? So Pastor Kevin would open his home to me and my sister. Every Saturday, he'd bring us groceries from Trader Joe's. And, he did things like when we moved into a new apartment, he paid the first 3 months of rent.
Wow.
And I didn't find that out until we closed out the lease. And I saw they give you a sheet of all the rent payments, and I saw his name, 3 checks for the first 3 months.
Wow.
And he was just extremely generous like that towards us. He taught me how to shave, tie. First time I shot a shotgun was next to him. And he was this tremendous man in my life. And, he was constantly fighting with me all the time. I tried to leave his school multiple times. I'd forge the Deer Valley Unified School District papers to go to Deer Valley High School. And, I tried to forge it, but they always needed his signature, like the previous administrator's signature. And he'd never give it, and I tried to make up a story, whatever. And I remember one time, I got so frustrated with the discipline system that I tried to steal the detention book. So I stole the detention book off the school secretary's desk with Linda Guthrie, and I threw it in the trash can outside the door. I didn't go very far, and I would have been a really bad criminal, just horrible criminal. And so I did all that and pushing against him, but he just had me in this bear hug. And he just would not let go. I mean, he was a very determined person, very persistent guy. And then in my 10th grade year, day before Thanksgiving, a couple days before Thanksgiving, do you need to pause?
Yeah, let's go to a break really quick because I want to come back and we're going to talk about this next part of the story. So we'll be right back.
Ever wish you could get together with a friend over coffee each week and talk about God's Word? Me too. Hi, I'm Anthony Russo. I'm the host of Grace and Peace Radio. Grace and Peace Radio is a Christian living blog and podcast dedicated to engaging conversations about applying God's Word to everyday life. I hope you'll join me, Anthony Russo, on Grace and Peace Radio each week at graceandpeaceradio.com or right here on the ChristianPodcastCommunity.org.
And we're back. So, George, I know you started talking about Thanksgiving, and that's a memory that's pretty vivid in my mind as well. That would have been Thanksgiving of 2009. And so...
Now were you in the 10th grade at that time?
Yeah.
So, go ahead and please continue.
Yeah, Ben, as you remember, a couple days before Thanksgiving, I think it was a Wednesday night. That Wednesday night, Kevin Waycaster approached me in the parking lot. I was getting in the car with one of my friends. He was going to come and sleep over at my house. And I remember he invited me to this men's outing in Kingman, Arizona. Right. And I said no. I blew him off. I didn't, I tried only go to the church events I had to go to at the time. That was kind of my attitude towards the church. And so I went home, and I remember the next day, my friend had slept over, and his dad came to pick him up to take him home. Not the next day, but the day after, the morning of Thanksgiving. And here he comes, his dad, and he's just looking at us very somber, which wasn't like my friend's dad. And he said, I got to tell you guys something really, really tough. And I said, what? Just a couple junior high boys, or 10th grade boys, just what? And he said, Kevin Waycaster and your friend Micah passed away. They were in a horrible car accident. And I remember just feeling really confused, like, no way.
Right.
And he said, all right, Nick, get in the car. And they got in the car and took off home. I remember walking back into the house, and I walked into the front door, and Mom had her hospital bed there in the front door. And I closed the front door, and she looked at me from hospital bed, what's wrong? And I was ready to burst. And so I just ran into the bedroom, closed the door, and just cried into my pillow and sobbed. And it was just this tremendous loss. It felt like the death of a dad. And I remember the next day, I think they had this thing at school, and all the students got together, and everybody's crying, and you just feel like really confused. And it really affected my sleep. I just lost the ability to sleep well after that day. And I just kept thinking about death. Just kept thinking. I had just a 16-year-old friend, 15-year-old friend. He just passed away. He was like my age. I didn't know could you pass away at 15? Could you pass away a young adult? I mean, Kevin was maybe like around my mom's age, and so all this stuff happened, and time progressed, and I just couldn't sleep. Went to the funeral, couldn't sleep. And then all of a sudden, Steve Pettit rolls into town, and he preaches this message about the love of Christ. And I just remember realizing a resemblance between Kevin Waycaster's love and the love of Christ. And I just remember thinking, that's where it came from. This is real. This is very real. And so I responded to the message, came to the Lord, and put my faith in Him, and
Amen.
And wept with Jesus. It just it's very, very emotional, kind of coming to Christ. It was finally like, just felt all this weight come off my shoulder. And so God used that. And after I got saved, somebody from the school said, hey, you should think about going to CSA and preaching. And I totally blew that off. And then they kept, Pastor Shaw kept bugging me about it. And then finally I did it, and Justin Howe coached me. And here's the guy I rebelled against all those years, and he's coaching
me. Give me 3.
Yeah, I need 3 points in a poem, man. So he gave me 3 points in a poem, but the funny thing, I lost them. And that I waited until the night before competition to try to put something together again. I think I found his notes, but I started reading through his notes. I'm like, but how do you preach? So I went to YouTube, and I said, good preachers.
Paul Washer. Come up on that one.
Bring the fire.
Actually,
David Jeremiah.
A different guy came up. You guys know him, but he was very good public speaker. And so I started kind of trying to mimic some of his gestures and stuff. And I remember I won that year. I took first place. I walked across the platform, and he's like, wow, Pastor's like, you did a really good job. And what helped you? I said, Pastor, there's this guy on YouTube, Joel Osteen. And he is really good at preaching. And I just remember my pastor like,
you didn't see Kevin Shaw on there? Sorry. My bad.
We didn't have
sure
a YouTube.
he's somewhere.
We didn't have a YouTube channel at that time.
Yeah. So anyway, Pastor said, hey, you should think about preaching one of the Sunday nights.
Wow.
There was an opportunity one of the Sunday nights in the summer when we had summer interns there, and I preached alongside of the summer interns, so three guys preached that night. And, that led to me being interested in preaching more in Bible college. And I guess I'm interested in preaching, and I love preaching, but I'm much more interested in just helping people. And preaching changed my life. I mean, that's how you can't hear the gospel without a preacher. And so I guess that's what the Lord was really giving me a burden for. Went to college, met my beautiful wife, trained to be a pastor, and was invited on a mission trip to Kenya, Africa. And so we went.
Was this in college or high school still? Or
college? Sophomore year in college, right? Yeah, I think sophomore year in college. And just the summer before my mom passed away. She passed away when she was about 45 years old. Wow. I was 19 when we buried her, and so that was the summer right before my sophomore year. And, you know, that was a significant loss too. My mom was a godly woman. She was a prayer warrior. And I think my mom was praying, if I had to guess, I don't know what she was always praying about, but I think she was praying that God would lead me into ministry. And what happened is when I went to Africa, I mean, I just fell in love with those people. It's still hard to talk about because, you know, I miss them, you know. So it's... Yeah, we left some children behind. And I remember my Middle Eastern family, when I told them I wanted to go to Africa, they just looked at me like, are you crazy? do you know how much effort we put forward, like escaping that part of the world? What are you?
You're going back over there?
Are you dumb? Have we taught you nothing? And I said, no, you don't understand. I love the people. And just said, well, you're crazy, man. Don't do it. And so we went, and God used it. We planted a South Sudanese church, and still going very strong today. They just had a youth weekend at Berean Baptist Church, and that youth weekend there were over 30 teens in attendance, and just God's growing it. And we had Sudanese in our house probably 5 days of the week. I mean, always in our apartment. We always did things at the church property, but they would always find their way back to the apartment with us. And they were always in our home. Lexi was always cooking for more people than she had estimated for. And the weekend, Thon, who, you know, would help me preach. We would co-preach. You know, we were trying to prepare him one day be a church planner. And Thon would sleep the weekends at our house. And Lual, his brother, I mean, I don't know, he ate dinner at our house five nights of the week. He was always over there. And we not only did that, we started we started reaching some of our neighbors and ministering to some of our neighbors. And I was asked to teach a Bible study in the building that we were living in, which housed probably around 90 families. And so we fell in love with those people too. They actually, we had an opportunity to do a Christmas outreach with them for the whole building. And so we did a Christmas outreach, and ended up like 60 of the families showed up. I mean, wow. The parents rented this tent and had all these people there. And so I got to give a gospel message. And I remember one night, that night after the Christmas outreach, this African lady came up to me. She said, Pastor, how about we leave the tent up here and we just do church tomorrow, and we could plant a church right out of this building. I said, well, I've never heard of a church planner plant two church buildings simultaneously because I don't think it works well. But I don't know, maybe in 5 years or something, because we were planning to stay there a long time. And so God was growing the ministry. I had just signed the lease for a building. We had moved independently into our own building. And the next day, my wife, her health just collapsed. She was in Nairobi hospital for 5 days. And, Lexi looked at me and said, I think I'm going to die, and I can't shake this feeling that I think I'm going to die. And I remember the doctor came in one day, it was like about the 5th day, and he said, well, we've tried everything we know. She's been seen by our best specialists here in the country. There's one more thing we can do. We can try to figure out what's causing all this, but to do that, we're going to have to expose her to lots of different things, different elements, and different things that might cause her to go to anaphylactic shock. And I said, well, that doesn't sound like a good idea. No. I called my mission board. I called Pastor Shaw, my pastor, and I said, what do you think I should do? And Pastor Shaw said, not that. As only Pastor Shaw can say. So, he's just been this tremendous counselor in my life. And, my mission director said, yeah, that sounds like a really bad idea. The missionaries there that I was talking to and relying on said, yeah, that sounds like a really bad idea. So we bought a ticket, came, and caught COVID on the way over. And, COVID only got a little bad for me when, only had to go in the hospital a couple days. But Lexi actually pretty fine through COVID. It was the first time we had gotten it really bad as a family. And but great for weight loss. I think I lost 20 pounds.
On COVID?
Yeah,
wow,
2 weeks,
wow,
yeah. Wow. I had the stomach part of it and the lung part of it.
I've heard of the keto diet, but not the COVID diet.
Oh, yeah,
That's
it's good. Yeah. Chinese know what they're doing. Sorry, just sneak that in there. But anyway, we went through all of that and got some help at the Mayo Clinic and now we've gotten to here, so we've loved ministering in Northwest Valley. It's been an honor that my pastor would allow me to serve and as a volunteer, and so we've led some international outreaches and I think folks have just tried to encourage us by finding some spots for us. And Lexi sings in the choir, and our daughter loves all her Sunday school teachers so much. And so we're just very thankful to be here with our church family.
Well, and I think God's got more in store. I mean, He's sovereign, and He brought you here for a reason, obviously. And I know it's as difficult as I can't imagine. Leaving your church behind over there, I can't imagine. But God's got you here for a reason. There has to be a reason.
Yeah, we're thankful. I think God is teaching us gratitude. I think sometimes we forget to say thank you for the trials, and the death of a vision is very hard. It's very hard,
Yeah.
but the seed has to die and go into the earth for something else to grow.
Right.
And I think that's what God is doing. He's growing something else, and we look forward to see how He leads.
Amen.
Well, there's something else coming up, right? There's another outreach.
There is, yeah. We're going to start surveying the international community as a means to kind of interact with some international folks and invite them to a summer class that Pastor Shaw and I are going to try to co-teach. And so we're really excited about it. It's meant to kind of introduce Christianity to people that have never interacted with it before. And so we're going to try to take a culture and Christianity approach in the sense of how does American culture relate to American Christianity? Are they the same? They're often conflated in the international community.
Yeah.
When they think of a Christian, they think of an American, but then, they think of an American in all his lifestyles and in all forms of Americans from all over the country. And it's
not so good.
Yeah, we don't all go to NASCAR races and, drink a bunch of beer. So it's just like, we don't all yell profanity at the president. It's not all of us. So it's just.
Try not to, yeah.
Yeah, they think we all hate, and so it's just, there's some.
The perception needs to be changed.
Yeah, that's what we're trying, and as a means of introducing Christ as well. Not just it's just cultural things, a means to kind of break the ice. But we're going to introduce them to who Christ is from the Gospel of Mark, Lord willing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that, that's going to be happening this summer.
Yeah, it's going to be happening every
in 2 months.
Yeah, every Wednesday starting June. First Wednesday in June, and then on from there.
And you speak 2 other languages, correct? Am I correct?
Yeah. I muddle through Arabic, and I'm very fluent in Aramaic, Chaldean Aramaic. So, it was tremendous help to Hebrew in seminary.
Wow.
So, Mom grew up speaking to us in Aramaic. She spoke broken English till the day she passed away. So, just,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, George, thank you for sharing that story. It's quite a story. It's amazing to see where God has brought you.
Amen.
I do. Like I said earlier, I remember meeting you for the first time, and I remember the handful that you were, and it's truly amazing to see where God has brought you. It really is.
I just know Pastor George. That's I don't know the bad. You know what I mean? I always see in good light.
I didn't know all of the bad, but I can remember.
The bathroom wall, what he wrote in there in the stall. George was here.
I thought I saw a GB in there somewhere, tagged in there somewhere.
They had to remodel the bathroom, actually. It's remodeled now.
I don't know that's why they did that, but yeah, it's good to know.
Yeah. But thank you for joining us today, George. And we just encourage you guys to visit us at abundantlife.fm. You can get, today we probably won't have a whole lot of show notes, but we'll include a few resources in there. But abundantlife.fm is our website. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and YouTube. Please do subscribe. And thank you guys for.
And I would say, Ben, if they're interested in this class in the summertime, that they can contact us as well at abundantlife.fm.
True. I can put a link in the show notes, but nwvbc.org is the website for the church. They have a church calendar on there, and I don't know if there's going to be any information posted on the church website for that summer class. But if not, you can go to the church website. You can call the phone number on there, and I'm sure they can get you all of the information necessary. So, again, thank you for listening.
Thank you, guys.
We look forward to the next episode. And
thank you, George.
Bye for now.
See ya.
Bye.